Now we're going to create a flat image plane backdrop outside this bathroom window. I've done a rendering here already with just the default mental ray sun and sky, physical sky environment backdrop. And, I'm a bit underwhelmed by this, and I'd rather have something more interesting to look at. You'll note that I've adjusted the exposure value in order to better expose for the exterior light. So just like in the real world, there's a huge difference between the brightness level of the sky and the brightness level of this wall inside the room. So I've tried to split the difference here by setting this to a value of 7. So we're going to go ahead and create the backdrop, and we'll do this by creating a simple plane. So I'm going to go to Create Standard Primitives Plane, and I'll just draw this out in my side view here, left view. And in order to make sure that my image isn't stretching funny on that plane, I want to make sure that the plane is the correct aspect ratio. So of course aspect ratio is the width of an image divided by the height. So I need to have my image handy in order to figure out what that aspect is. I'll go ahead and open up my image. I've already placed it into my appropriate folder, which is Scene Assets Images. Okay, this one is called Glen Park Canyon. I just want to open it up in its own window in 3ds Max so I can figure out what its aspect ratio is. I don't want it to be stretched funny on my image plane. So if I right click, I'll get information once again, and you'll see up at the top left it says width and height. So those are the pixel dimensions of the selected image. Now where you see it says aspect, don't be confused by that because that's talking about the aspect ratio of pixels or pixel ratio. You might be aware that DV footage or DVD video has non-square pixels. Well, in this case, this is square pixels, and I can tell that because it says the aspect is 1. So we're not concerned with pixel aspect ratio here. We're concerned with the image aspect ratio, which is very simple. If the pixel aspect ratio is 1, then the image aspect ratio is the number of pixels wide divided by the number of pixels tall. So our image aspect ratio is going to be 2304 divided by 3072. Got my calculator here. So it's 2304 divided by 3072 is 0.75. So I happen to know that that is a 3 to 4 aspect ratio. It's 3 divided by 4. So my plane here should be 3 units wide by 4 units tall. So I'll go to the Modify panel, and I can just set this in whatever units are appropriate and convenient. I can say, all right, well, we can make this 4 feet wide by 3 feet tall, and now I know the aspect ratio is correct for the image that I want to use. Next thing I'll do is I will move this out to a distance which would be appropriate for this image. In other words, that's supposed to be the other side of the canyon. It's supposed to be quite a ways back. Now, it doesn't have to be physically accurate in any way, but it just has to be somewhere in the ballpark. We don't want it right up against the window because then it's going to look like a poster. So I want to move it out just far enough so it kind of makes sense. Once I've moved it out there, then I can just scale it up. So I'll just grab the scale tool. Here we go. And scale that up so that it fills the area of the window. And I want to make sure that it actually fills more than I need. I can adjust the exact positioning later. Maybe I'll dolly out here and maybe move it up or down a little bit. But once I get my texture on there, once I get the image on there, I can make final decisions about where this should be in terms of how does it line up with the horizon line. So that's the basics of creating it. In the next video, we'll look at creating the self-illuminating material for this image plane backdrop.